NSDate, we'll work with NSDate today, and things that are a little bit more complicated because they depend on other classes. For example, NSDate depends on NSDate formatter to format and print out the date. So basically, we type NSDate is the class, so I'm going to say start my date to have a concrete instance variable my date. Then NSDate and call the method date on it. And if you have noticed, we've been calling this has been called as message passing. We are passing a message date to NSDate. It's the same thing as calling a method on a NSDate. So either one of them you may encounter and it's true. So I'm calling a method a date on NSDate. So now I got a date. I can just print it out just like that. So let's try that one first. What will happen if I just do this? Let's print out a date. And what would it look like? And believe me, this is just all about, here we go, you see it printed out year, month, day, hours, minutes, and etc. So now next step is to use the NSDate formatter to print it out in a specific format. So NSDate formatter is the class. I'm gonna create a variable df, and I'm gonna call new on NSDate formatter. Then on the df variable of type date format, I'm going to call set date format, and I'm going to give it a string to print it out. And then I'm going to print it out. I'm going to call the method string from date and send it the date and see what it does. Okay, you see it printed out 15 December 2012. DD was day, MMM 4 capital M's. Now you may say, where am I getting this? And that's the next thing. This is one of the more complicated classes. One depends on the other, and how in the world did I know what to put in here? Well, that's through looking at some examples. I'm going to show you some common examples and show you the documentation of where to look all this up. So let's change it a little bit. I know from experience, and you will see in a minute where I got it from. I'm going to put in 4 E's. See what that one does. So it printed out 4 capital E's means the day spelled out, capitalized fully. Okay, so now let's look at where am I getting all these formats that I send in and what do they mean. I am going to click on set date format. Then I spent about 10 minutes looking around, chasing my tail. I went down reading this, and it's data formatting guide. I'm gonna format. That sounds like something I might click on. I click on it. Date format here and on this page. Then I read down and clicked on different links until I found what I was looking for in fixed formatters. And here we go. Now that's looks like something we were looking at, different formats and how they would look. Scroll down and here's a complete table. And if you look down, that's what you will read to figure out what you gotta do to make it show up like the way you want it. For example, where is that E? Here it is. It was here a minute ago. There we go. Weekday. I want to work with weekday. Capital E, 1 to 3 times it'll show up like this. 4 times it'll show up as fully spelled out. 5 E's, capitals, will just show the T. Lowercase, what will that do? Tuesday is the second day of the week. Now that's kinda, we gotta talk about that, another complication. Isn't Sunday the first day? Will that be 0? So that would be something you play with and see why it says 2. Sunday's 0, Monday's 1. What's going on here? So don't let that confuse. Just zero-based index. And I will tell you in advance that there are ways to set what the first day of the week is going to be also in, and we'll look at that. It's in the documentation. I might not be able to get to it in these tutorials, but there is a way to do that. Now let's look at some date math. Add a number of days to a particular date, or seconds or minutes or whatever you got. I'm going to create a variable called days to add, and 1 day to add, for example. And I'm going to create a new date, and I'm going to take the my date I had before, call a method add time interval 60 by 60 by 24, and days to add, that is one or 2 or 3 days, and see what it'll do to us. Well, what that does is it should spit out Sunday, right? And then it does Sunday's the 16th December 2012. I'm going to change that to 2. Now I should get Monday. There you go, now Monday. Now if I want to subtract, let's say 2 days, number of days to add, what if I add a minus sign? Will that do it? 2 days ago, what was the date? It was Thursday. So that's your date math. Either adding, now of course if you just want to add seconds or stuff, you will be working with, not 60 by 60 by 24. That's, one number of seconds in 24 hours. So you're gonna mind that, see what's going on there. Now how did I know I'm supposed to provide seconds to add time interval? I'm going to click on add time interval. I'm going to look in quick help, and I'm going to read down. It says parameter seconds, the number of seconds to add to the receiver. Use a negative value for seconds to have the returned object specify a date before the receiver. So I have a little bit of documentation right there. And then if I click on NSDate class reference, it opens up a little bit more detail. Well, actually it's the same level of detail in here, and that's how I know. So basically you get the hang of it, right? Notice over there was a little error here, says add time interval is deprecated. And okay, so let's look at add time interval. So look at the quick help, and as I go down there's a line across it. And also down here it says deprecated. This method has been replaced by date by adding time interval. So if I click on that, it shows me its usage. So let's try that out. So I'm going to get rid of this one and try the other one. So control space, I'm going to press on my keyboard. So date by adding time interval, and okay, I'm going to get rid of the other one, and let's see what it'll do. Now I double click this one, and no deprecation here, but does it work right? Yes, sir. So it does work right, and all the warnings are gone. We are using the latest method for adding some time interval. So that's the example of using a method, finding it has been deprecated, and finding its replacement. NSCalendar a little bit. NSDate and NSCalendar, they go hand in hand. So if I have some examples over here. NSCalendar, then in the quick help I'll go to the NS Calendar class reference, and it gives you all the information of what you can do, date, arithmetic, and all the methods in it. Basically, the documentation says it works in conjunction with NSDate, NS Calendar, NSDate. So you have a NSDate now, create an instance of NSDate, now that then we created another NS Calendar, we'll call it Gregorian, and NS calendar alloc init with calendar identifier NS Gregorian calendar. There are several types of calendars, so we'll work with Gregorian calendar. Then we have NSDate components, weekday components, and we go like this: Gregorian calendar components, NS weekday calendar units, and then from which date? Now. So we acquired NSDate components from now, and then we are going to do is NSWeek components, and then weekdays. And we can say, okay, give me the weekday, and then I'm going to create an NS string with format. %0 to D is an integer, two-digit integer is going to be, and take the weekday integer and turn it into. So having done all that, when I run it, I should see today is Saturday, here it should say 7, so 7th day of the week. So it'll be interesting. Tomorrow I'm going to use this and say, does it say, it should say 1, if Saturday is 7, then Sunday should be 1. Example of working with NS Calendar. There are a lot of other things you can do with NS Calendar, data, arithmetic, and it's all in the class reference.